Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste and good morning, everybody. So we'll continue with our discussion of the 10 meditation, non-dual meditation verses from this book, Vivekacudamani. Remember, it's not just these 10. Sankaracarya has indicated how we can do non-dual meditation in a number of texts. Here itself, these 10 are there, but afterwards, there are so many verses from 254 to 263. These 10 verses specifically because clearly Shankaracharya indicates here, meditate thus, tattvamasi. So, Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. Meditate thus in your mind that you are Brahman. What are you supposed to meditate upon? The first 3 lines of each verse. But afterwards also, from 264 onwards, it goes on, 300, 400, all of them, they are worth meditating upon. They are worth sitting quietly and looking inwardly and checking, is that true? So, non-dual meditation is what we are, just dwelling in that. Many Upanishadic texts can be taken for non-dual meditation. Many Gita verses can be taken for non-dual meditation. Shankaracharya himself in other texts, for example, in the text Aparokshanubhuti, there are 15 such techniques of non-dual meditation. In the text Drigdrishya Viveka, which is a later text, we have 6 techniques of non-dual meditation. In all of these cases, we'll very soon see that it doesn't really matter what that particular technique is. The basic idea in all of them is locate or identify yourself as Brahman and stay with it. That's all. And these texts are just aids, supports for staying with it. You can take Nirvana Shatakam as non-dual meditation. Mano buddha hankara chittani naham. I am not the mind, not the intellect, not the memory, not the ego. And check with each one. Can you see that the mind is an object? Therefore, I am not the mind. This is an object. I am not this. The body is an object. Therefore, I am not this. The mind also is an object. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, they are objects because you experience them. Whatever we experience is an object, and therefore you are not an object. The intellect is not an object. The very intellect by which we are doing all this, the intellect is an object. It's not you. So the mind is an object. The intellect is an object. The memory is an object. You experience your memory, the functioning of the memory. The non-functioning of the memory, that also you experience. So these are objects. Even the ego, I. If you locate the I, the sense of ego, I. If you can locate it, if you can feel it, if you can sense it, then it's an object. So therefore you are not even the ego. You are not the mind, not the ego. So keep noticing. And then you will see when it says Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, I am awareness. That's also obvious. And this unlimited awareness itself is bliss, is peace itself. This is the nature of Shiva. Therefore I am Shiva. Not as rhetoric, not as a slogan, not as a positive affirmation. It's just noting a fact. The more factual you can note it as, the more easy it will become. So all of these texts can be used for non-dual meditation. Now let us chant these first 10 verses, and then we will take them up. We'll go ahead with our discussions. Please. Jati niti kula gotra duragam Nama rupa guna dosha varjitam Desha-kala vishayati yad Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani Yat param sakala vaga gocharam vimala bodha chakshushaha Shuddha chidghanamanadi vastu yad Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani Shadvirurmibhira yogi yogirid Bhavitam na karanair vibhavitam Buddhya vedyamanavadyamasti yad Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani Kalpita jagat kalashrayam Swashrayam cha sadasad vilakshanam Nishkalam nirupamanavadhiyad Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani Diparinatya pakshaya Vyadhinashana vihinam avyayam Vishvasrishtya vighata karanam Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani Astabhedamanapastalakshanam Nistaranga jalarashi sanchalam Bhaktamurtiyad Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani Ekameva sad aneka karanam Karanantara nirasya karanam Arya karana vilakshanam swayam Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani Kalpakam analpamaksharam Yatcharakshara vilakshanam param Nityam avyayam sukham niranjanam Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani Yadvibhati sadanekadha brahma Nama rupa guna vikriyatmana Hemavat swayam avikriyam sada Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani Yachakastana paramparat param Pratyagikarasamatma lakshanam Satyachit sukham anantam avyayam Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani It's beautiful. Now look at verse number 255. Verse number 255. We shall discuss a few more verses and then take some questions and break. And then after the break, we will do another non-dual meditation, that experiential lecture which we had yesterday. Another version of that we will do today. Yat param sakala vaga gocharam gocharam vimala bodha chakshusha shuddha chidghana manadi vastu yad brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. Meditate upon Brahman. You are Brahman Meditate upon that in your mind. How? Says, that which transcends all language. So, sakala vaga gocharam, that which transcends all language. Why does it transcend all language? For that we have to do a little bit of philosophy of language. It's a big branch of philosophy. So, non-dual philosophy of language. Why is the ultimate reality beyond language? Why can't we speak about it? We are speaking about it. Books and books are written on it. This is also language. So why are you saying it's beyond language? Sankaracarya says, Jati guna karma sambandha and Rudhi. Rudhi he does not mention, that is later on it is added by Sureshwaracharya in one place. Anyway, Rudhi also. These are factors which he says, Shabda pravritti nimitta, the instigators of linguistic usage. It's a fancy way of saying, how does language function? How can you use language? What does language do? It refers. Refers. You have a word, book, and it refers, it points to this object. Book is a word, it points to this object. So language refers to something. But to refer to something, that something must have, Shankaracharya says, must have certain attributes. Otherwise, language will not work on it. What are these attributes? He says, class or species, jati. Then some property or attribute or quality, guna. Some activity, transaction, karma. Some relationship, sambandha. Or just by convention. So these are 5 factors of linguistic usage where language can operate. Any one of them, and you can use language. But if none of them are present, then you have a problem. So, 1, jati, class. Shankaracharya uses the classic example of a cow. This animal is, we can call it a cow. We can use the word cow to refer to this animal because the set of cows has certain properties and this animal has those properties. And therefore you can say this animal belongs to the set called cows, and you can use the word cow to refer to this. It has to be a member of a set, a member of a class, a member of a species. Then it will work. The name you give to that set, you can use it for each member of that class. So a pot, a book, these are all things which have certain characteristics. And you use it for that object, so that particular entity. But Brahman does not belong to a class, because there is no class of Brahman. It's not Brahmin, right? Brahmin is a class, is a caste. It's not Brahmin. Once it so happened in this joke will work only in Bengali, but anyway. But it happened, it really happened, so I have to share it with you. This was a couple of years back in one of our big ashrams in Calcutta. They still have that old system of when you have a lecture coming up, you advertise in the papers. Nobody ever reads the papers, nobody buys them, and let alone read the ads in the paper. Who reads them now? Nobody. But anyway, we still, tradition. So they put an ad in the paper, and my subject was, here is Brahman. I wanted to point out the immediacy of it. It's present right here. Here is Brahman. And they printed it, the ad was printed in, so the title in Bengali was Brahma Ekhane. Brahma Ekhane. Ekhane means here. Brahma Ekhane. Here alone, or here it is, that Brahman is the ultimate reality. It's here. And they printed it as Brahman Ekhane. Here is the Brahmin. And the Swami was so annoyed. He read it. There were 800 people sitting in the big auditorium, and Swami says, look at what they have done. They printed it as, here is the Brahmin. It's a class. There is no class of Brahman. It is because it's one without a second. There aren't many ultimate realities. Then it would not be the ultimate reality. Ultimate reality only must be one. There must be nothing other than it. So it's not a class. Hence you can't use a class name for Brahman. Then attribute. We immediately know attribute means, oh look, there is the red paper there, or the blue flower, or things like that, you know. Yeah. Yesterday I got that drink from in the what do you call it, in the cafeteria, in the dining hall. It was a startling blue, and everybody was asking me, what is that? And I proudly said, it is a blue mountain berry blast. And somebody told me, I've never seen a berry that color. It's all artificial. Of course it was artificial. So get me the blue drink, the startlingly blue drink, the drink which looks like the blue sky, like that. How did you describe the drink? With its attribute, the color, the tall person, that big book. So you are using an attribute. The attribute, a property, a quality, an attribute to point out to something, to distinguish a particular object from everything else by its attribute. Brahman, we immediately know this can't be done, because Brahman has no attributes. We have studied Brahman is attributeless. If it's not an object, you can't say there's an attribute to the non-object Brahman. Because in every attribute, if you say Brahman has a particular attribute, immediately the question will be, is it knowable or is it unknowable? If it's knowable, then it becomes an object of knowledge. It's not the pure subject. And therefore, you can't say that Brahman has an attribute. If it's unknowable, then why speak about it? Why even talk about something which is unknown and unknowable? Then what's the third criterion for use of language? One can say, well, activity. Can the driver of that particular car, it's about to be towed. It's not a problem here in Arizona. You have plenty of space. But in New York, it's a perpetual problem. It's about to be towed. Can the driver remove that car? How did you locate that person? The driver of that car. The cook of this dish is to be complimented. The French are very dramatic. In our ashram in France, that's the only place I've seen this, nowhere else. After the food is over, the cook, it comes and takes a bow, you know, and everybody will say, they will clap and say, bravo, encore, just to encourage the person to cook again, just so that person comes. So the cook is to be complimented. How did you narrow down on that person? By the activity of cooking, by the activity of driving, by function, by behavior. It's all very deep. It's not just these practical examples I'm giving. Even in science, how do you detect an utterly elusive particle? By its behavior, by its effects. That's how a particle accelerator works. So by the activity, can you designate Brahman by its activity? But Brahman has no activity at all. Nishkriyam. It doesn't do anything. It's utterly lazy. It's absolutely inactive. So it doesn't do anything. But there is nothing for it to do. So Brahman cannot be indicated by its act. But one might say, wait a minute, Brahman isn't it designated as the creator of the world? Every religion says God is the creator of the world. Yes, but there's a distinction between the absolute and God. The absolute, with the veil of Maya, dressed up in Maya, becomes the creator, preserver, and destroyer of the world. That's all right. But if the world itself is not an ultimate reality, then you can't attribute creation of the world to Brahman. It's like attributing the creation of the snake to the rope. You say the rope, why did you create a snake? The rope will say, what snake? It's your problem, not mine. I never became a snake. So Brahman cannot be designated as the creator of the world also, beyond activity. The ground of all activity, the basis upon which all activity appears and disappears, but in itself not doing anything. If you say, what an awful villain in the movie, and you tell the screen, why are you so nasty? Screen will say, I didn't do anything. So although all the action in the movie is going on the screen, the screen, it does not do anything, is not responsible for the activities of the hero or the villain in the movie. Similarly, Brahman is without action. Therefore, you cannot use action to designate Brahman, like a driver or a cook or something. You can't. Then what else remains? Relation. Guru, disciple, father, mother, child. These are all relations. And can you describe Brahman in relation to something? Well, you cannot, because Brahman is one without a second. Relation, dvinishtha sambandha in Sanskrit. Relation requires two terms. It exists relating at least two terms. There is no two in Brahman, it's non-dual. Therefore, Brahman cannot have a relation with anything or anybody or any entity. There is no entity apart from Brahman. So, relation also will not work. What else remains to you? Well, just use a word, get it done with. Yes. The device is always listening, so you have to switch them off. Yeah, it's all language, you see. It's all language. Just use a word. See, it's all language. I was having this argument with this brilliant guy I met. He's the Google AI, what is it called? Gemini. So he's the guy who is the research head for Gemini. So he was telling me how it's all language, large language models, AIs. Right now, the present generation of AIs are all language, all about language. I said, got you, because Brahman is beyond language, so the AI will never be able to grasp Brahman. He says, but Swami, all your Vedanta is language. When you communicate about Brahman to the students, when the texts tell you about the ultimate reality, it's all language. So why don't you just use, so one way of using language would be, just use a word, just call it something. It doesn't have to be a class, doesn't have to be a quality, doesn't have to be an activity, doesn't have to be a relation. Just give a name and be done with it. This is called conventional designation. Like you name a baby. This baby is John or Ram or Mary or something. On what? Is it based on class or activity or quality? No. It's just a name that you are giving to the baby. So you can give a name. This particular stars or heavenly bodies. You give a name to it. When you discover it, you give a name to it. On what basis? Just a name. Maybe the discoverer or somebody, but nothing to do with that particular object. So why can't you do that with Brahman? Just call it. After all, you call it Atman, Brahman, things like that. Call it something. It will not work, because to do conventional designation in Sanskrit, rudi, conventional designation, just naming, you need to point out what is being named. You need to point it out. Otherwise, nobody will be able to understand what you're talking about. You say, I name that star XYZ 1, 2, 3, 4. The immediate question will be, which star? And if you say, I won't tell you. It didn't work. It's meaningless. Call Ramesh. Who's Ramesh? That I won't tell you. The guy can go out and yell Ramesh, but he has no idea who's going to respond, because he doesn't know who's being referred to. So just naming will not work, because Brahman cannot be pointed out to. That's why these names, when we use Brahman, Atman, Tat, Sat, Chit, we can only form a vague idea of it. You try to point out to it, you'll never be able to point out to it. You know it exists, but you can't point it out. So language will not work. And he says, Sakala Vaga Gocharam. Now what do? You notice our own existence, this awareness, this being that I am. Notice that you cannot put it in any class. Is it a body? Is it a mind? What is it? You can't put it in any class. Is it a table or a chair? No, it doesn't belong to any class. What activity does it do? No activity. There's no activity. It just shines. It's not doing anything. It shines. I am. When you use the word I am, the two sides of it, am means existence. You can split that I am and see am means isness, existence. Clearly note that I do exist. There's no doubt about it. And the I refers to the chit, the consciousness part of it, which means I not only exist, but I am aware, I shine. It's not a dead objective existence. It's something which is aware, shining, conscious. Note it. And it's so obvious to us. It's utterly obvious to us. But how did you, what naming can work? Is it part of a class? Does it have any attributes? You see, but consciousness, maybe its awareness is the attribute of that. Is awareness an attribute, or is it awareness itself? It's not that it is aware, it is awareness. It is awareness itself, it's not an attribute of that. And even words like consciousness and awareness, we are referring to consciousness and awareness in the mind when we talk about it, which is pretty objective, you can feel it right now. But the Atman itself is beyond that. We'll see soon in the meditation exercise, the next session. It's not this awareness which we experience right now. This awareness comes and goes. You fall asleep, it will go away. Take a general anesthesia, it will go away. It comes and goes. In waking, dreaming, deep sleep, it flickers. But this is not it's like what is the relationship between this awareness which we feel and this pure awareness or Atman which we are talking about? It's like the sunlight and the moonlight. The moonlight is nothing but the sunlight. I must have told you the vampire story. Some of you have heard it. So that's the problem with YouTube. Most people have heard these stories. Anyway, just for the sake of those who have not, how many have not heard the vampire story? There's so many people have not heard. Good. Then I can tell you. It's a cartoon which I saw. You know, vampires, they come out at night, and the one thing they're afraid of is sunlight. So there's a sunshine, yes. So there is this cartoon, the vampire with big teeth coming to bite this guy. This guy is standing, it's dark. I mean, it's like, it's lit up, moonlight is there, but it's night. The vampire has come out. And this man, he says to Mr. Vampire, sir, you're aware that moonlight is sunlight. You know that, right? And the vampire starts smoking, he starts burning up. Before he was aware, he did nothing, no problem at all. But suddenly you realize, after a simple astronomy lesson, moonlight is reflected sunlight. It is sunlight. But there are differences. At night, you don't see the sun. And in our day-to-day life, you don't see Atman, Brahman, it's not something directly experienced by us. At night, what do you see? Everything is seen through the moonlight. And you see the moonlight also. Right now, everything is experienced by us by this reflected consciousness. And we feel this reflected consciousness also. If you ask, are you conscious? Yes. That's what the doctor asks you. What the doctor checks for? Checking for the moonlight, not the sunlight. And the sunlight is constant, blazing. The moonlight varies. There's a new moon and full moon and quarter moon and the phases of the moon. Moonlight comes and goes. It increases and decreases. Similarly, we feel more alert or less alert. We fall asleep and lose this reflected consciousness. We go under general anesthesia and lose this reflected. So this reflected consciousness is both, it is consciousness, pure consciousness, and it is not. Yet the moonlight is nothing but sunlight. It's literally sunlight, a tiny, tiny bit of sunlight. Similarly, this reflected consciousness which we have right now is nothing but pure consciousness. So, my point here was, you really can't point to it. Even when we use words like consciousness, Atman, Brahman, you can't point. At the most, you can point to the moonlight. Because directly the sunlight you can't see. Similarly, here, pure consciousness is not an object. It is you, actually. It's like looking at your face in the mirror. You can point out to your face in the mirror, but you can't objectify your own face because it's not something that is seen. If you see it, it becomes a reflection. All right, so the point here is why language cannot refer. Even when we are using words like consciousness, presence, I am, Atma, Brahma, you are not directly referring to the pure consciousness. It won't work. Sakala Bhaga Gocharam. It is not reachable by any language. All language fails to reveal Brahman. But how do you see it? How do you realize it? So, Gocharam Vimala Bodha Chakshusha. It's beautiful poetry. By the pure eye of knowledge. Vimala Bodha Chakshu. There are two meanings to this. One is pure consciousness itself is self-luminous. See, even without objectifying our true nature, none of us have any doubt that we exist. None of us. I exist. You would say that, Swami, I can't put it into words, I can't put it in a sentence, but I do exist. I know it's not an objective thing and I cannot tell you how I know, but I do exist. So my own existence is not an object to be revealed by the sources of knowledge, by language, but it is not unknown also. It's most obvious to me that I do exist. So pure consciousness is self-luminous. So self-luminous means self-revealing. Now here is a lot of philosophy behind this. A thing cannot operate on itself. If you say this, consciousness illumines everything and it illumines itself. A philosophically trained person, a professor of philosophy will say, what, is that magic? What are you talking about? A thing cannot operate on itself. A thing cannot operate on itself. You cannot lift yourself up by your shoelaces, you say. A knife cannot cut itself. Similarly. So what illumines? Something that is in darkness is illumined by light. So that's what we mean by illumination. The light, it illumines the room in dark. The world was in darkness and the sun rose and illumined the dark world. It was in darkness, now it is revealed. It's lit up by the sun. But can't we say the sun also illumines itself? Because after all, you don't need another sun to see the sun. You don't need to switch on another light to see that light. So the light not only illumines the room, but illumines itself. Technically, you're wrong. Because the light was never in darkness. What does illumination mean? Something hidden in darkness, you shine a light upon it and it is revealed. Right? Was the light ever in darkness? No. So if it was not in darkness, it does not need illumination. So what the light is doing, you have to give some other name to it. Not illumination. It's not that the light doesn't do to itself what it does to everything else. What does it do to everything else? It shines upon everything else and reveals it. It lights it up. But light doesn't light itself up. But yet we know what we mean. We mean that the light, you don't require another light to see the light. So what do you call that property of light? That's called self-luminosity. This is a philosophical distinction. Self-luminosity. In Sanskrit, this is called swaprakasha. This self-revealing thing. It's not lighting itself up because it was never in darkness, but it reveals itself. It reveals itself and illumines everything else. The Upanishad mentions this with the language, that shining, everything else shines. By its light, everything here is lit up. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. That shining, everything else shines. Everything else means consciousness shining, the mind shines. The senses shine, and thereby the world is revealed. A world of form and sound and taste and touch and so on. And smell and so on. But consciousness itself does not illumine itself. By its light, everything here is lit up. That shining, everything else shines. So this is called the self-luminous nature of consciousness. It is not revealed by language. Language doesn't reveal it. It's prior to language. In fact, it reveals itself and reveals everything else. Even language functions in the light of consciousness. Someone gave the example of sweet. So this water was not sweet by itself, but now it tastes sweet. You know, then somebody put sugar into it. The milk is not sweet by itself, but now it tastes sweet. You know, somebody put sugar into it. So how do you make something taste sweet? You add sugar to it. You add sugar to it. How do you make sugar taste sweet? You add sugar to it? No, you'll say, no. Sugar itself has its own sweetness. Similarly, to know anything, what do you need? Consciousness. What do you add? Like sugar. To know this, what do you need? You need to be conscious. And then you need eyes and all this equipment and everything. To know anything, physical objects, forms and colors and sounds and tastes and smells and touch, thoughts, ideas, memories. To know anything, you need consciousness. Right? Like sugar, add consciousness to it. To know consciousness? Do you have to add some more consciousness to it? No. Consciousness is self-luminous. It's self-revealing. This is called swaprakasha, self-luminosity of consciousness. There is a book. So these are not covered here. This is meditation verses. There is a book which deals with all this kind of analysis. It's called Chitsukhi. It's one of those books of logical analysis. The mananam part of it. You have to hear, you have to reflect, you have to meditate. The reflection part of it, the philosophical part of it, the reasoning part of it, the argument and debate part of it. There are many books which specialize in that. One book is called Chitsukhi. It is technically the correct name is Tattva Pradipika. Tattva Pradipika, lamp on reality. Written by Chitsukhaacharya about 800 years ago. Chitsukhaacharya. That's why the book is called Chitsukhi. Chitsukacharya, the name of, he was a monk, the master whose delight is in consciousness. Chitsukha. So there he takes up, how do you define this self-luminosity? Swaprakasha, how do you define self-luminosity? And he takes up 10 definitions of self-luminosity. Why 10 definitions? Each one he finds faulty. Takes up, that was the way of philosophizing though. Please define what do you mean by self-luminosity. One definition. Second definition. Here is a fault. Here is another fault. You come up with another definition. Finally comes to the 11th definition, which he accepts, which he says is without any fault. Swa-vishayatve sati aparoksha vyavahara yogyatvam. That which, without objectifying itself, can be referred to as immediate. Look, it immediately applies to you. You cannot objectify yourself. You can't. What do you mean by objectifying yourself? You can't see yourself. You can't touch yourself. Swami, I can. No, not the body. Consciousness. You can't touch it. You can't touch the consciousness. You can't smell it. You can't taste it. As we discovered, you can't even speak about it, language. You can't even think about it. Whatever you think is illumined by consciousness. Thought is not objectifying consciousness. And yet, how do you know it? You know you are there. How do you know it? You know it immediate. Immediate means without any mediation, without any other instrument. So without being an object, avishayatve sati aparoksha vyavahara yogyatvam, which can be designated as immediate. That is consciousness. That's the self-luminosity of consciousness. Anyway. So this is one meaning of Vimala Bodha Chakshu. What is Vimala Bodha Chakshu? Pure consciousness. Because of its self-luminosity, Gocharam, it is knowable. Knowable means it is known or it's obvious to us. Another meaning is, Vimala Bodha Chakshu is enlightenment. In Sanskrit, Brahma Jnana, Brahmakara Vritti. What is Vimala Bodha Chakshu? The highest knowledge, the purest knowledge, which is Brahma Jnana, the knowledge of Brahman, the knowledge, I am Brahman, I am limitless consciousness. And that is referred to here as an I. By that I, you see your real nature. The moment of enlightenment. In Vedanta, it is called Brahmakara Vritti. The mental modification in the form, I am Brahman. When that moment comes, that is the eye of pure knowledge, Vimala Bodha Chakshu. That's one meaning. The other meaning is pure consciousness itself is Vimala Bodha Chakshu, is itself self-luminous, self-revealing. And that's how it is known. But it is agocharam, not knowable, language cannot refer to it. But what can refer to it? Pure consciousness itself, because it's self-luminous. Or enlightenment, because it reveals your nature as pure consciousness. So that's the meaning. Shuddha Jidghanam Anadi Vastu Yat. It is pure consciousness. Shuddha, pure. Pure in what sense? Because there is no other reality. Because pure consciousness is non-dual. There is no other reality. What makes something impure? Mixture. Mixture. There is no second entity to be mixed with consciousness. Right now, for example, whenever we talk about consciousness, know it to be guaranteed, unless one is enlightened, know it to be guaranteed. When we talk about consciousness, when we think about consciousness, we're basically talking about the mind, the conscious mind, the mind lit up by consciousness. It's a mixture. It's a mixture. It's not pure consciousness. That's why all of this, you have to make an effort to make it stick, to understand what's being said. If I can appreciate pure consciousness as it is, each of them will immediately make sense. So he says our real nature is not this mind and consciousness mixture. It's not this ego and consciousness mixture. Right now when we refer to ourselves, I, if you refer this feeling of ego, I, it's the mind, the ego function shining in consciousness. When I say I, what is this I? It is the ego plus reflected consciousness. In the mirror example, what is this I? It is the mirror and the face reflected in the mirror. What is the face reflected in the mirror? Reflected consciousness. We are just one step away from enlightenment. If you focus in on the I, you can go back to the pure consciousness, your real nature, just one step. But that's really difficult. It's really difficult because we are not used to that kind of movement. It's like what kind of I remember one monk showed it to me once in an aquarium. If you see in an aquarium how those little fishes swim, they go like this, They go like this to the end of the aquarium and then turn around like this and they go back again. And then go to the end and then turn around like this and go back. And this monk, he said, it's exactly like that. It's exactly like that. At that point you must do this movement. I was a youngster, I didn't know what this. It's exactly like that, but metaphorically, not physically. Not even psychologically. What is it like? It's like looking at your face in the mirror, and from the reflected face going to your real face is from there, this way. But the problem with the real face, what's the problem with the real face? It's not seen. We know what is the real face. So, Shuddha Chidghanam, Chidghana, very beautiful verse, dense with consciousness, packed with consciousness. Tasathas bharpo jyon ka tyon, in Hindi, packed tight with consciousness. There isn't space for anything else there. Chidghana. Like condensed milk. This old joke, schoolboy joke of this little boy who went to his class with an assignment, and the teacher had said, write 2 pages on milk, and he wrote 1 paragraph, and he said, why did you write 1 paragraph? He said, I wrote on condensed milk. Like that. We're talking about condensed consciousness. Not consciousness diluted in the mind. Not diluted in the mind. It's consciousness which is just bare consciousness, naked consciousness, only consciousness, pure consciousness, condensed consciousness. Chidghana. When every day we sing the arati, the hymn to Sri Ramakrishna, do you remember this word is used, Chidghanakaya, whose body is condensed consciousness. So we think of, no, he isn't. He's just this man with a beard who's sitting there. With this strange expression on his face. He's lost in thought and sitting there with a faint smile. And he has a beard. It's a body. It's not condensed consciousness. So we're thinking of the body of Sri Ramakrishna. Now think of the mind of Sri Ramakrishna. And beyond that, what is there? Chidghanakaya. It is pure consciousness alone. It appears as a body and as a mind. I remember in Hollywood, again, funny story, but it's a real story. It happened in the beginning of the hippie movement, in the 60s. 60s. 70s, late 60s. So they went through a real transition. I mean, this was before my time, but there are some who have seen that. So before that, the people who would come to the ashram would be, dressed in their Sunday best. So, and suddenly you had all these people coming very informally dressed, casual, sort of casual wear. And these ashrams went through a revolution. I heard there were board meetings to decide, what do you do with these people? And they desperately tried to cope. There would be people standing with a tie to put on the gentlemen and a shawl to drape around the women. They tried all sorts of things and finally gave up. It's a revolution. Now, around this time, this young man was sitting outside our Hollywood temple. So this is the story. He was sitting outside shirtless, sitting outside the Hollywood temple with the usual hippie, the beard and the long hair, shirtless. And Swami Vandananandaji, who was a monk there, he has passed since, he had this dry sense of humor. He comes and says, put on a shirt. And this young man says, why? The guy in the temple, he's not wearing a shirt. Sri Ramakrishna. Why? He isn't wearing a shirt. The guy in the temple is not wearing a shirt. And Swami Vandananji said, with the same, same tone of voice, and there the similarity ends. Put on a shirt. Chidghanakaya. That is the language used for Sri Ramakrishna. Chidghanakaya. Shuddha Chidghanam. Anadi Vastuyat. Beginningless. See, this consciousness, another word, it is just Anadi, beginningless. This consciousness which we experience right now, it has a beginning and end. It flickers. It comes and goes. You fall asleep, it seems to be gone. You wake up, it seems to come back on. You take anesthesia, it seems to be gone. Wake up, it seems to have come back on again. This is not what is being referred to. It is like the reflected face. The reflected face is always affected by the mirror. You see your face in a convex mirror, in a concave mirror, in a dirty mirror, in a dusty mirror. It will all look different. It's affected. The reflection is affected by the mirror. Pure consciousness is not that. Brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. Note, sit in calm contemplation and note how this reality which is obvious to you, note how none of the 5 factors of language apply to it. Class, quality, activity, relation, conventional designation, none of them will work on this thing which I am very clear about. Therefore, not designated by language, not amenable to linguistic usage. And yet it's luminous, it's obvious. That shining, everything else shines clearly. Therefore it is Vimala Bodha Chakshu, by the light of, by the eyes of pure knowledge or pure consciousness. It is obvious to me. Like this you meditate. Keep it real. Like Americans would say, keep it real. If you can keep it real, it will be very powerful. Slowly it will seep into the mind that I am that. I am not this. I am not the mirror with the face. I am the real face. It will seep into the mind. Then number 256. Shadavir urmibhir ayogi yogi rid bhavitam yogi rid bhavitam na karanair vibhavitam buddhya vedyam anavadyam asti yat brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. So the Shadabhi Urmibhi, untouched by the 6-fold waves. What are the 6-fold waves? That hunger and thirst, then decay and death, grief and delusion, Jara Mrityu, then Trishna, Kshuda Trishna, and then Moha, Shoka Moha, grief and delusion. Hunger and thirst, they belong to the prana. The old age and death belong to the body. And grief and delusion belong to the mind. And these are the 6 waves which assault us as human beings in this life. Untouched by these 6 waves. No old age for pure consciousness. No old age, no death for pure consciousness. No grief for pure consciousness. No delusion for pure consciousness. No hunger and thirst for pure consciousness. Yes, old age and death will be there at the level of the body. Hunger and thirst will be there at the level of the prana. Then grief and delusion will be there at the level of the mind. No. What happens is, not only is the Atman free of all of these, when the mind becomes convinced that my real nature is the Atman, then the mind also overcomes its grief and delusion. So, in enlightenment, the mind will not be affected by, will transcend sorrow. Sorrow will not. The causes of sorrow will be there, the reaction of sorrow will not be there in the mind. So that's what happens in Jivan Mukti. So anyway, these 6 waves which torment us in life, they do not touch pure consciousness, our real nature. The more we are centered in our real nature, the more we can honestly claim, even in the midst of the 6 waves, I'm fine. I'm all right. So Viyog, it's not touched by these 6 waves. Yogi hrid bhavitam, na karanair vibhavitam. This pure consciousness, how do I know it exists? Because it is not revealed by the instruments of knowledge. The eyes cannot see it, the ears cannot hear it, the tongue cannot taste it, the skin cannot touch it. The 5 senses cannot objectify pure consciousness. So, na karanair vibhavitam, not objectifiable by the senses. Even that we just saw, mind cannot conceive of it, the language cannot reveal it. So how do I know that it exists? He says, yogi hrid bhavitam. In the mind, in the intellect of the jnana yogi, the yogi on the path of knowledge, in the intellect of that jnana yogi, by the hearing, reasoning and meditation on Vedanta, it is clear that I am that. Then, Buddhya vedyam anavadyam asti yat. That which cannot be objectified by the mind, and yet it definitely does exist. So in the Kena Upanishad you find this thing is not an object, pure consciousness, Atman, Brahman. The teacher says, na tatra chakshur gacchati na vag gacchati no manaha na vidmo na vijanimo yatheita danushishyat, in the Kena Upanishad. We do not know how to teach this to you. Why not? Because we don't know it ourselves. You have to be very careful when he says we do not know it ourselves. He means it in a technical sense. Even the enlightened masters do not know it in the sense we know things. So, are they confused about it? So they don't know it. No, they do know it. So they do know it and they don't know it. So they sort of confusedly know it, vaguely know it. No. They know it more than what we mean by knowledge. Much more clear than that. But why do they not know it? Because the senses do not go there. The mind does not go there. Speech does not go there. Same, Kena Upanishad says this. Then how will you know it? And the teacher says, Anya deva tadvedita dato avidita dadhi. It is other than whatever is known. I see. Yeah, it's unknown. That's why I'm here. I don't know Atman or Brahman, my real nature. That's why I've come here. And he says, it's other than what is unknown. You don't know your real nature. No, I don't. Well, we are not going to talk about that real nature anyway. It's not the unknown thing which we are talking about. It's not even the known thing which we are talking about. See, the intellect knows. The function of the intellect is to know. So for the intellect, it divides the universe into two categories. That which it knows and that which it does not know. Or even further, that which is knowable and there's something which is unknowable. But here the Upanishad says, your real nature is not something that is knowable by the intellect. It's not something that is unknown by the intellect or unknowable by the intellect. It's other than the known, other than the unknown. What's the one thing which is other than the known and other than the unknown? There's only one such thing, the knower. The knower. The knower cannot be known. Why can't the knower be known? Because to know is to objectify. If you say, but I know myself, I am the knower, I know I can see myself, that's the body. I know I can see all my life data and everything, that's your biodata. These are all objects. I know myself, I can feel myself, I can know my own thoughts and ideas and memories, that's the mind. But the real you is neither the body or the mind, not even your biodata. The real you is pure awareness, pure being, and that's not something that is known. It's not an object of knowledge. To have an object of knowledge, you must have an instrument of knowledge. If you say it's known, I will ask you, by what did you know yourself? By which instrument, which sense organ? You cannot say. But you can't say that I don't know myself. You know that you exist. In fact, it's the one thing that you know for sure. There's only one thing that you know for sure, that you exist. But how do you know that? You don't know. You can't say it. So there is one thing which is other than the known and other than the unknown, that is yourself. Because it's not why is this peculiarity there? Because it's not an object of knowledge. It's not something known by the intellect. Then the student is tested by the teacher. Student is asked, so now do you know yourself? You came here to know yourself, right? So now all the teaching is over in the Kena Upanishad. And the student says, yeah, now I know, it's clear. After the retreat, I know myself. And you can imagine the teacher rolling his eyes. Because I just told you, you cannot know yourself. And if the student corrects himself and says, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know myself, then you have failed. It's an F grade. You came here to know yourself. Now you say, I don't know myself. Then the teacher, the course, the student, everybody's failed then. It's a tough question. Yadimanyase suvedeti davram evapi nunam tvam vetha brahmano rupam yadasya tvam yadasya deveshvatanu mimamsyam evate manye viditam. If you think you know yourself, you know very little. This pure consciousness, you know very little of it as Brahman in the cosmos or as yourself in this body mind. You don't know it well. And see, I give you another chance. Don't flunk this test. Tell me, do you know yourself? The student says, yes. He says, you should, the teacher says, the student says, what do I do then? The teacher says, Mimamsyam evate, inquire further. Mimamsa is an ancient Vedic word. It means Vedic inquiry. reverential inquiry, pujita vichara, reverential inquiry. Inquire more. How do I inquire more? Listen to more YouTube talks. Read more Vedantic. No, he's serious. Go back and read the text. Take a look again. Read through it again. It'll strike you. These texts are something that you read through all your life. You get it more and more and more. More light comes. Not because the texts are getting better and better. It's just that my mind is beginning to grasp it more and more. So, inquire once again. Do more hearing. Do more reasoning. Try to do more Vedantic meditation. And then the student comes back and says, well, now I know. The teacher said, did you hear anything I said you are against? And the student is one step ahead of the teacher. Student says, wait, let me finish. Naham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedacha yonas tad veda no na vedeti vedacha. He says, I am not saying that I know it. Aha, gotcha. You don't know it then. No, but I do know it. What do you mean? I can see other students looking confused. What's he talking about? And the student explains, those amongst us who understood my statement that I do not know it, but I do know it, they know it. And the teacher is delighted. Teacher says, right, you've got it. And he explains to everybody else. Yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na vedasa avigyatam vijanatam vigyatam avijanatam. Those who consider it cannot be known as an object, they know. Those who consider it to be known as an object, they do not know. For it is known to those who do not know and unknown to those who know. I hope that makes it clear. And yet, if you sit quietly and apply it to pure consciousness, the witness consciousness that I am, you'll see all of these match. They will fit absolutely, precisely. So you will feel exactly, it's like that. So, Buddhya Vedyam. I was explaining this phrase, Buddhya Vedyam, unknown to the intellect, unknowable to the intellect. Now one might say, see how he corrects immediately, unknowable to the intellect. So if one might say, so you can't see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it, you can't speak about it, you can't think about it, you can't understand it, you can't remember it. Maybe it doesn't exist. Maybe it doesn't exist. You're talking about some impossible abstraction. Immediately corrects. Anavadyam asti. Most irrefutably does exist. How do you know? Do you exist? Yes. That's the one thing nobody ever has doubted. If you doubt it, I wonder if I exist. That's you have proved your own existence. Who is the one wondering? Sankaracarya says, Yas asya nirakarta tasyaiva atmasa. Whoever denies the existence of the self is the self of that very denier. It's like saying, I cannot speak. If you say it, you immediately contradicted yourself. To say that I do not exist, you immediately contradicted yourself. You might say, I don't exist as this body. It's a dream. It's the Matrix movie. Fine. But you do exist as the one experiencing the Matrix movie. So your own existence as this conscious being, sentient being, that's what Descartes found in his, René Descartes, the great mathematician, in his skeptical project of skepticism. He set out to doubt whatever could be doubted and found one thing which you cannot doubt, your own existence. Cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I exist. So one's own existence cannot be doubted. He says, anavadyam asti, it does exist, although it is utterly unknowable by the intellect or the mind. That one, Vedanta says, it's most obvious to you. That's what was revealed in the first 253 verses. Think that you are that, Tattvamasi. Meditate upon this in your heart. Just one more verse and stop. Bhranti kalpita jagat kalashrayam swashrayam cha sadasad vilakshanam nishkalam nirupamana vadhiyat brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. That which is the substratum of the universe with its various subdivisions, which are all creations of delusion, which itself has no other support, which is distinct from the gross and the subtle, which has no parts and has verily no exemplar, that Brahman art thou. Meditate on this in thy mind. Jagat kalashrayam. Jagat, this universe, it refers to it as, kala means a part. This universe, he says, is a part or an aspect of Brahman. Now, in Advaita Vedanta, Brahman has no parts or aspects. So here the word kala, in Sanskrit, kala would mean a part. So here the word kala means the limited, this limited world. This world which is limited in time, space and object. Everything is limited here. This world which is subject to time, space and object limitations. This world, Jagat Kala, it is supported. What's its support? It's not an independent reality. To think that I am here and this world exists by itself other than me. This is our basic, the naive worldview, the materialistic worldview. And Vedanta is saying, no, this world does not exist apart from you. This feeling that this world exists separately apart from me, outside me, it comes, why it comes? It comes with body identification. Clearly the world exists outside my body. There's no doubt about this. This is my body and this table exists outside my body. There's some stuff inside my body. That part is clear. As the body, I am a tiny, tiny part of a vast universe. Just look outside. The vast desert are all around us. We are so tiny. As the body. But now stand as consciousness, as awareness, stand as existence. Suppose you are existence itself. Now from the perspective, think of it as from the perspective of existence itself. Whatever exists it exists in me, because I am existence itself. Like gold and gold ornaments. Do you see the parallel? Gold and gold ornaments. If I am a necklace, then the bracelet is different from me. And it's outside me. I am a necklace and there's the bracelet. And there is the ring. That's also different from me. It's a different form, it is a different shape, it has a different name, a different use, and it's separate from me. Each ornament is separate from me. I'm just a necklace. But if I'm not a necklace, if I identify myself with gold, I am gold. Then what about the necklace? That's me. What about the ring? That's me. What about the bracelet? That's me. All of these, it's not that there is, in fact, even more interesting, the ornaments are in gold. It's not that gold is there in the ornaments. If you see waves in the ocean, which is a better way of putting it, each wave has a lot of water in it. Or are the waves in water? Is there a wave which has been pumped with water? No. It's rather the waves are in water, not water in the waves. Do you see this way of talking? Similarly, the ornaments are in gold, not gold in the ornaments. So all these ornaments are in me. They are not outside me. If a golden ornament exists outside gold, it won't exist at all. Because its very existence is the existence of the gold. The existence of the gold is the existence of the ornament. Without the gold, no ornament will exist. This kind of language is making sense? Now he says, stand as existence itself. Stand as consciousness itself. If you stand as existence itself, you will find the entire universe appears in you like the ornaments appear in gold. He says, Jagat Kala Ashrayam, this limited universe. Ashraya means the ground, the support. We saw two examples yesterday, the mirror and reflected city and the dream example. What is the support, if I use that example, if I use that language, what is the support of the city in the mirror? On what does it exist? It looks like it exists. A city exists by itself. No, if you see it in the mirror, it's supported by the mirror. Its ground, its basis, its support is the mirror. In Sanskrit, Ashraya. So Vedanta makes the claim that this world does not, as a body, this world exists apart from you. You are a part of this world. But as being itself or consciousness itself, this world exists as an appearance in you. It's not apart from you. It exists in you. You are bigger than it. You are greater than it in space, in time, and in object. The world is limited in space, time, and object. This idea that the world exists separately from us, Vedanta says, Bhranti Kalpita. Vedanta is not denying that you see the forms and the names and the activities, but what Vedanta is saying is that it doesn't exist separately from Brahman or Atman, as it seems to. The moment you stand as Atman or Brahman, you will see the world appears in you. It has no separate existence. Alright, so the ground of the world, ground of the reflected city is the mirror. The ground of the dream world is the dreamer. The ground of this universe is Brahman, Atman, you. But then what is the ground of Brahman or Atman? You can ask, on what does Atman or Brahman depend? Where does it stand? Swashrayam. Existence does not need anything outside of it to exist. It doesn't depend on it. So materialists will say, oh, consciousness, the ground of consciousness is the brain. Whereas in Vedanta it reverses. Body, brain, mind, all of them are appearances in consciousness. Consciousness is the ground. What's the ground of consciousness? Consciousness is the ground. It does not have any ground, separate ground. Sad asad vilakshanam. You have to be careful here. Sat and asat, they are this pure consciousness or being is different from the manifest and the unmanifest. Here Sat does not mean Brahman. Sometimes we use word Sat as Brahman, Satchidananda. Here Sat means that which is obvious, that which is tangible to the senses. Asat means the unmanifest, the subtle, the mental, psychological, that which is there but is not manifest to the senses. It is distinct from both. Brahman, Atman, pure consciousness, pure being is distinct from the manifest world and from the subtle unmanifest world. It's distinct from that which is sensorily perceptible and that which is imperceptible. It's distinct from the effect, karya, it's distinct from the cause, karana. Yes.
Pranam, in a universe without objects, how can you find the consciousness?
You cannot. That's the interesting thing. So the question was, suppose there are no objects, then consciousness, let's just take existence itself. How are we aware of existence? Because there are existing things. Suppose there were no existing things. Suppose the body was not there, the world was not there, not even thoughts were there, no existing things. There would be no sense of existence also. But would existence be gone? Here is the question. What does existence do for existing things? What do existing things do for existence? This is a subtle philosophical question. What does consciousness do for objects? What do objects do for consciousness? It's like this. There is what does the moon do for sunlight? And what does the sunlight do for the moon? What does the sunlight do to the moon? It lights up the moon. It illumines the moon. You can see the beautiful moon there. That's what the sunlight does for the moon. It lights up the moon. What does the moon do for sunlight? It manifests it. Suppose the moon is not there. New moon day. Moon is not visible. In that case, what does the sky look like? Black, dark. It looks like there's no light. It's full of sunlight. But you can't see that sunlight until there's something to reflect sunlight. So what do objects do for consciousness? It makes consciousness manifest. What does consciousness do for objects? It illumines the object, reveals the objects. It all sounds abstract, but it's actually very practical in our day-to-day life. When there are things to be aware of, how are you aware of these things? Through consciousness, through awareness. Awareness is aware of things. But what do the things do to awareness? The awareness becomes manifest, experienceable. You feel you are aware. But suppose there's nothing to be aware of, then there's nothing to illumine, awareness has nothing to illumine, then what happens to awareness itself? It remains unmanifest. It's like deep sleep. In fact, not like deep sleep, it is deep sleep. Deep sleep is an experience of absence. Absence of what? Absence of objects. It's not an absence of experience. It's a new kind of experience. What kind of experience is it? When nothing is present. That experience of nothing is deep sleep or anesthesia. So when there are no objects, it's not that consciousness disappears or pure being disappears, but it's not manifest anymore. These discussions are there in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse number 16, Sankaracarya's long commentary. He says all things, they borrow existence from Sat. So the pot exists. You can see the existence manifested there. Suppose you break the pot, broken pot exists. Suppose you smash the broken pot, the clay exists. Suppose you remove all clay from the universe. He says, if you remove all the pots, he says the cloth exists. Existence is there in the cloth. Now he says, in the commentary, he says, suppose you remove every object from the universe. He says, aha, that's clever. But What will happen is not that existence will go away. Objects are gone, existence remains imperceptible. That's what he says. All right, we'll stop here.